Yes, sir.
I'm M.L. Elric.
Warden
Fellauer.
said he'd see me at noon. Oh, yes, Mr.
Elric.
The warden will be with you in just a minute. Excuse me, please. Warden's office, Sergeant Kennedy speaking. Who? Oh,
The soul of Detroit.
yeah.
Windsor's execution?
Okay, hold on. I got the dope here on my desk someplace. Excuse me, Mr.
Elric.
Be just a minute. It's all right. Press get hungry for the gory details about now. This is the third call this morning. Have a seat there. Oh. Yeah, here it is.
You asked interrogative questions.
Finger out of my face. Go on.
What are you doing? Come on.
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now, Albert?
Hello, boys and girls. It's not your old pal ML Elric. It's Mark Fellhauer here. Instead, on behalf of the soul of Detroit, ML has taken a vacation week, so he's entrusted his intern Patrick to put together a best of. I'm excited to see what's coming up on it. I know Al Sobotka, the former Red Wing building manager, Zamboni driver, who was unceremoniously fired by the Red Wings and has only told his story with the soul of Detroit. There's some highlights from that. Highlights from Valeria, who is a refugee from the Ukraine, currently living in Tecumseh, Michigan. Some interesting stuff there. Our usual arguments, our usual yelling, and you hear a little bit from everyone's favorite Politico, Sam Riddle. So that's all coming up, as far as I know, on the best of ML Elric's Soul of Detroit. In the meantime, we want to thank our sponsors, our two main sponsors, kind of underwriting it, and they have to do with your money. If you want your money to earn money, there's one guy to call. It's Luke Nowacki, Pinnacle Wealth Strategies. Give him a call, 248-663-4748, 248-663-4748, to help discuss strategies moving forward. The market is just bananas right now. Inflation is out of control. What do? Do you put your money in equities, stocks? The guy that's got the answer is Luke Nowacki, once again at Pinnacle Wealth Strategies, 248-663-4748. Securities Investment Advisory Services offered the Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated, member FINRA, SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, and services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Inc. I almost messed it up, but I think I did pretty good there. The other guy that's helped underwriting us is David Hall from Hall Financial. You can find them at callhallfirst.com, or you can ring them up at 866-CALL-HALL. As mentioned, the rates are going up, inflation's going up, but you know what you can do right now? You can get money out of your house. There's great news for all you homeowners. Your home value has skyrocketed. That means you have equity to cash out and with a refinance from Hall Financial. The average Hall Financial client who did cash out recently, guess how much they got? $55,000. You can pay off your credit card debt, student loans, any kind of debt you have, or you can just get the cash and remodel your home for when the market turns around. You want to sell it. There's a lot of things you can do. You can unlock thousands of dollars today with a cash out refinance from Hall Financial at 866-CALL-HALL or chat online at callhallfirst.com. So let's get into the best of without further delay. See what Patrick put together. There's a whole bunch of collections here at the beginning. Let's see. It says that why ML got such backlash because the Detroit Free Press is suing Michigan State University. Then we get in our usual argument about college athletics. And and then something I brought up about what do you want to do with your body after you die. But once again, first, here is ML defending the lawsuit by the Detroit Free Press against the Michigan State University Spartans, of which he is an alum. Here we go.
Michigan State refused to provide the contracts between the benefactors of Mel Tucker's very large salary.
Now, why is that important that they provide that?
Well, one reason why is because what if it says something like, in return for $10 million a year for Coach Tucker, so-and-so's entire family gets to ride on the team plane.
Yeah.
So-and-so,
which would not be unusual.
Yeah, so-and-so will be delivered two bound and gagged cheerleaders after every home game. I don't know what the hell would be in there, and maybe there's nothing in there. But one of the points I made in the column was when you got nothing to hide, don't act like you do.
Yeah.
But my issue and why I thought this was worth writing about as a watchdog columnist is because Michigan State clearly had a lot of problems with what happened with with Larry Nassar, and then after that with William Strample, the dean of the College of Osteopathic Medicine, both for his role in the Nassar thing and the way he conducted himself.
What's wrong with making it $2 million? If somebody thinks he's worth the $2 million, what's wrong with that?
See, this
Because
is where
you don't like it?
No, I think there's too much money in college sports.
Do you agree with that, Patrick?
I mean, in the pros, they paid Mitch Trubisky a lot more than that.
There you go.
And he's probably got the same amount of skill as any college quarterback.
Actually, less than many of them, as the Bears found out, but that's the Bears for you.
So why do you, Mikey?
Because as I've said before, to me, I want college sports to be different than pro sports. If you are a Michigan State Spartan, whatever your motivation, you chose to go to Michigan State, as I chose to go to Michigan State. We're on the same campus. We're living in the same
So
bubble.
you hate where you're from.
So
is
they're
what
not
you're
getting
saying.
they're not getting drafted. They are still choosing to go to those schools.
They are, but now the motivation is I need money, I need this, I need that.
No, I think that's a broad brush. I think for most athletes, it's not that.
That's what I was just trying to say.
No, I think
if the money's going to be the same, then you're going to make choices based on how we've always made choices.
Eventually. And to me, that's almost like herd immunity. Instead of trying to cure a disease, let's make everybody sick, which I guess works, but I don't like that.
A guy, when there was a law passed in the 1970s where you had to return remains and everything to the tribes, a guy kept them all in his garage, these remains of, these ancient hill people that lived there. And after he tells this story, there was like this other older couple on the walk with us, and they were just appalled that this guy would do that. And my only thought was, and then I said it out loud, was, you guys can keep my bones in a garage after I'm dead. It means nothing to me. Am I being weird by, I don't care what you do with my body after I die?
Yeah, once I'm dead, I don't give a shit anymore.
Do you care? I mean,
no.
You don't? Okay.
I do kind of like
care
the
to be
idea-
buried or cremated?
I do like the idea of there being some place for people to go, like a shrine where people could live,
Well, of course you do, 'cause
offerings
your ego.
or something like that. Well,
Shrine.
Oh, I thought his ego.
That's a shrine. All right, next up, Joe Spencer. Who is Joe Spencer, you ask? Joe Spencer was the program manager for WGPR. It's the first black-owned and operated television station in America, right here in Detroit. They had the scene that was basically Detroit's Soul Train, and Joe tells us about the history of it and kind of the struggle to just get that off the ground because GPR is still around today in one shape or another. But here's Joe Spencer from back on May 31st. I think the other struggle then would be advertisers who are, I would guess then, very uncertain about a black-owned station serving black consumers, even though there's plenty of data to show who's watching, when they're watching, that kind of thing. Was that a struggle? I mean, that must have been a massive struggle.
Well, that's really a sad story because when the station first went on, a lot of the advertisers had committed to give advertising to WGPR, the auto companies.
Yeah, you got the big three here. Perfect place. Yeah.
And they had, but the station ran into technical problems. They had technical problems right at the very beginning, in the middle of program, it goes black. You know what I mean? And, or, tape doesn't work right. And that had a lot to do with the inexperienced technical staff, the engineers that were there. And
they weren't scared to advertise or anything. They
weren't scared, but
okay.
I tell you, when that started happening,
they backed out.
Took flight, yes.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's like who wants to be associated with that kind of programming? You know what I mean? I mean, it was good programming, but it was the technical problems that happened.
So GPR, one of the big successes, the scene, the big dance show, compared to Soul Train. Soul Train was out before then, and I remember reading about Soul Train, and one of the successes they had was Don Cornelius knew somebody who was a purchaser for Sears and Roebuck, so he got them on board, and they were like, "Wow, this show works." Did the scene, was it modeled directly after that? Was that kind of the thing? And did you get Sears and Roebuck on?
Well, no, we never got that. But they did have some of the local Faygo, Pop, and the potato chip companies, and some of the jelly.
But they must have seen a response, though, is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
But unlike the bigger advertisers, once they turned away, they weren't coming back. You know what I mean?
Oh God,
so that's just
I know that.
That's one of the sad situations. But we struggled on. We found a way. And a lot of the local advertisers came on, and they had a chance to expose their products and so forth. So that's how we survived. You know?
It's fascinating.
How did you deal with things like equipment? Equipment is so expensive. I mean, now people can produce a newspaper, a movie on their iPhone. But back then you're talking about big cameras, huge battery packs. They've got to go into tape decks. I mean, the technical aspect of it is daunting. The expense of it has got to be crippling. And then the inexperience where, you know, there's no shortcuts because every time someone's run into a problem, it's the first time they've run into a problem. I mean, you know, were you just constantly biting your fingernails off, wondering how are we going to make this thing happen?
Well, you know, you're absolutely right. The equipment was terribly expensive. You know, I mean, it was like the cameras that we use today cost 10 times more than than what they cost now. You know, I think we were using a TK-47. I think it was an RCA camera. It cost $75,000, which in 1975 was a lot of money. And you know, I'm gonna tell you, that was one of the things that got us in trouble from the point that we were buying new equipment, but we were kind of ahead of the game. You know, we bought some equipment that was not being utilized in the market.
You did video first, right? I thought I heard you say
you
did video when most were 16 millimeter.
Yep, that's it. That was a good example, but that worked for us. You know, when everybody else was using 16 millimeter film to produce news, you know, field footage and news for the news department, we were using video, you know, and which gave us a competitive edge from the point is that, as I think we were talking about before, and we go out and shoot in 30 minutes, we could have it on the air, you know, where the other stations with their 16 millimeter.
They have to process it, right?
I mean, processing and editing process was also time consuming. So, you know, we got on much quicker. But we used one piece of equipment that was, it was terrible for us. It was called a RCA, I can't remember, but it was a machine that you put your commercials on and you put them in. It was a cartridge-based system as opposed to the reel-to-reel, which was everybody else was using.
Looks like an 8-track tape or something.
Yeah, like, exactly. So you put that in, and that thing, the bugs were not worked out of that thing, and that gave us so much trouble. And that's where the problem came because, of course, the advertisers' commercials are on these cartridges. So, you know, get ready to play their commercials, and they go halfway through, and they go,
That's so frustrating, though.
Yeah, it was kind of sad.
But what did you do to keep them on board? I mean, at some point, somebody's got to say, "Hey, man, I can't keep trying. I got to move on. You guys aren't ready for prime time."
Well, we lost a lot of advertisers on that, but there were other advertisers that came on board after that, and you know, so we had a lifeblood, you know, and we changed the way we did some things. You know, we had to reinvent ourselves in some ways. You know, we had to put aside that $200,000. RCA, TK, TR, whatever it was, I can't remember, but we had to put that aside and go to 3/4-inch videotape in order to put the commercials on. So we eventually overcame those problems, many of them, but by the time we overcame them, we had lost a lot of support we had in terms of the advertising community, in terms of the major advertising community. They had turned their backs and they weren't coming back.
All right, next up, the Al Sobotka saga. After 51 years of working for the Detroit Red Wings, Al admitted that he had to relieve himself because he has a medical condition, and apparently that was just too much for someone who tattled on him, and the Red Wings fired him, just disappeared. And Al only told the story one place, right here on the Soul of Detroit with ML Elric. Here's some of what Al had to say.
So, Al, this goes down like this, and I'm sure you've heard everything that's out there that I think originally we heard you were relieving yourself on a pile of snow in the Zamboni area, that you may have been relieving yourself when there were some kids from a hockey team nearby, that, you know, what there's a lot of mythology out here. And one of the things we want to do with this show, because it's based in journalism, is give people what the real deal is and at least dispel some of the myths.
I mean, we started at 8 because we had a basketball game night before. It usually takes us about 2 hours to do the nets and get the ice ready, drill the holes for the nets, and prep the ice and stuff, and got the practice rink done. Came back over, redid the main one, which was around 10 o'clock. The wings go on around 10:30 for a morning skate. And there was 4 of us, me and 3 other guys. and I usually take a 10 a.m. break. I told them, go take your break. I'll fill the Zambonis up for the next run. And, well, 2 of them went out, take their break, and the one guy stayed back, and I guess he spied on me and turned me in.
And I imagine this is not an easy thing for you to talk about. I mean, the reason why we have bathrooms, we like to do these things in private, but you're speaking out because you feel that you were unjustly treated by an employer that you served for a long time.
Pretty much. It's just one of those things. I had to go, and I didn't feel that I would make it 60, 70 feet to the restroom.
And you're an older guy now. I mean, you look pretty good. You look. I was going to say better than Sean, but I'll say better than Mark because I got to give Sean a break. Otherwise,
I can take it.
Deb Gordon's going to represent him in some sort of workplace action. But
contract employee.
Yeah, it just.
Oh, really? At will?
Yeah, exactly.
So you look a hell of a lot better than Sean. To get back to Sean for a minute.
So yeah, that's just had to go, and I didn't feel I could make it, and I didn't see anybody around, and nobody could see me if they walked by the room, and so I just went. I feel bad about it, but like I said, I had to do it.
Is this your practice? I mean, is this something that you do?
No.
You know, when the call comes, you answer the call?
I've seen people. No.
Okay, we're not going to answer that one. Okay, Mark, I'm sorry, I may have just asked your question.
I think you were asking the same one, but I do find it interesting. So we just see what happens and comes out in these stories. And my first thought was, there's got to be something else, right? Do you just feel that they just wanted to get you out of there 51 years and it's time for a change? Is this, because from here, that's what it looks like. If it's one incident, how can they just get rid of you?
I feel that's probably what it is. I don't know what else it could be that we know of, you know.
So they originally suspended you, right, to do quote unquote an investigation. I mean, every big corporation does that whenever there's an incident. But did they talk to you during the investigation?
No, I got suspended on a Friday afternoon about 4 o'clock. I walked out, and it said, that's what the lady said. Jasmine Howard said that I would be suspended for 1 week with pay and be back the following week. So it came Friday. I didn't hear from her. I kept calling. Finally, about, I don't know, it was late in the day, she called back and said, we're still investigating.
I mean, do you have any idea what they investigated? No. What is there to investigate?
I told her, I said, I admitted to it. I did it. Yeah. I did it. I admitted to it. What else? What's there to investigate?
And you explained your medical condition at that time.
That's why I told her that I had a prostate issue. I mean, I'm not proud of it, and I don't like to speak about it, but I told her that, and she said she would pass the message on. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday came nothing. Thursday afternoon, late afternoon came, and it's when I got a phone call.
Now, you're not represented by a union, are you, Al?
No, man.
And do you have a contract, or are you technically at will?
At will.
Okay, so for those of you out there who have an opportunity to join a union, by the way, this is about as good a reason as any to join a union, because there is a process that when you're accused of something, you do have some rights, as opposed to somebody just says, why don't you chill out for a little while and we'll let you know whether you live or die. Al, I was at a game right after this happened, and it was kind of flying around people who claim to be in the know that this was kind of payback, that there were some employees who may not have appreciated the way you treated them or how their relationship was with you, and that they were just waiting, that when this came, it's like, now we got him, and then they dropped the hammer, and that was that.
I really had no issues with this gentleman that turned me in, and all my regular guys will speak for me that I've treated him well. I was tough on him a lot of times, but when work needed to be done, that's what we had to do.
And I imagine you've spoken to some of your employees since this happened, or are you not allowed to?
I wasn't allowed to, but briefly, a couple of times, yes.
But that's interesting. You know the person that made the complaint, and you're not suing them. You're suing Olympia because they made the decision to let you go. What has happened to that person? Did this person? The rumor is this person got a promotion because of this. Like, they needed someone to fill your shoes, so let's use the person that complained. Do you know about that? Or
I really don't know who they gave the job to, but I doubt that he's getting it.
So the other thing that's out there in the wind is that the quality of the ice at LCA has been declining, and that there were concerns about your performance, and the NHL is there watching, and which to me, I heard that. I don't know that to be true, but LCA and Joe Louis before that was always renowned for having some of the best ice in the league, sometimes under difficult condition when you get those games in the spring that you didn't have back in the Olympia games. I mean, did anybody talk to you about strictly your job performance?
No, no one has.
ML, if I can just chime in.
Sure. This is Deb Gordon, who represents Al.
Yeah. So before we took the case, we got Al's personnel record, which was extensive because he's been there so long. It's like 300 pages or something. We wanted to look and see. There's nothing in there. I mean, this is a very big corporate entity. Performance reviews, that happens. People get memos, they get reprimands, they're counseled, coached. There was nothing. And Al knows of nothing. This would be a logical thing to say to somebody, right? If you had a problem with the ice.
Well, the other thing is
that'd be a reason to get rid of the person in charge of taking care of the ice.
That would be like a real thing.
Yeah.
So that never happened. And why do you come up with this? Of all the crazy things to use, it's just utterly illogical that this had anything to do with the ice. And Al was never told that or put in writing or anything.
Sure. And one of the only excuses I haven't heard for the Red Wings not playing very well is ice quality. I mean, you don't hear any of the players saying, I just can't keep, pucks bouncing on me or anything like that. So again, these are just things that are out there in the public domain, and we don't raise them because we believe they're true, but because we want to give Al a chance to address them because they're out there. This is a public forum. Sure. And we think that given Al's tenure, and how much of a topic of conversation this is, we should try and
that's why it's a
clear as many of these out as we can.
That's why it's a topic of conversation. It makes no sense to people that see this from the outside. Like, okay, there's everybody I've talked to is like, there's got to be something else in that personnel file. I find it very interesting that there isn't. And over 51 years, not even a complaint, nothing in writing that they have. I don't see how they can get rid of you other than that they wanted to. And if that's the case, did they ever say, hey, Al, let's wait till the end of the season and then we'll just say goodbye? Was that, it was just, nope, you're done. We'll send you all your stuff. It was that cold?
Yes. That cold. They packed all my stuff. I went and picked it all up, and that was it.
Next up on the Best of ML's Solo Detroit, Darren Beatty of Revolver News zooms in to tell us his theory about the Whitmer kidnapping plot. Remember that whole thing that blew up in the feds' faces? But he's got a connection here between that and what happened on January 6th, causing ML to challenge some of his assumptions. So here's Darren, once again, from way back on April 12th, 2022, talking to ML Elric in the Solo Detroit.
Tell us a little bit about what you think was really going on when this handful of guys got together and started talking about grabbing Michigan's governor, maybe killing her, maybe killing some police. And according to some of the surreptitious recordings made that were played in court, they were hoping to start a revolution.
Yes, well, I think this case, and particularly this verdict, is a rare occasion for justice, if not optimism, because optimism would presuppose some kind of accountability for the Justice Department, which clearly screwed up here big time. And the question is, what's the agenda behind this screw up? Just to set the table for a little bit for those in your audience who might not know the basics of this case, this was presented as this grand domestic terror event. It was splattered all over the media shortly before a major presidential election. And the dominant narrative was this shows that Trump supporters are the new domestic terrorists. And you had organizations like the Department of Homeland Security come out and reinforce this narrative, saying white supremacy and white supremacist domestic terrorism is the number one national security threat. Well, there are a number of fishy things about this case from the beginning. One shocking statistic, of the 26 people originally imputed to this so-called kidnapping plot, 12 turned out to have been either informants or undercover agents. In fact, the involvement of the feds in this case in setting up what they alleged to be the conspiracy was so egregious, and the participants are so sordid. Just to give you a few examples, one of the FBI agents running this was actually arrested in the course of the trial because he beat the hell out of his wife on the way back from a swingers club. Another one of the lead agents was prohibited from testifying because he is actually moonlighting his own private security firm, which he promoted with a pseudonymous Twitter account, leaking out various details of the Michigan case, presumably unbeknownst to the FBI. Another one of their main informants in this case, a decades-long informant who had every financial incentive in the world to set this thing up, he was actually arrested. The government arrested their own informant on a gun charge and actually effectively shut him up from testifying on behalf of the defense in trial. And so there are a lot of weird things going on here. It's a rare glimpse into the kind of sordid personalities within law enforcement who conduct these kind of sham entrapment operations. But there's a larger context here, and that's why Revolver News is originally interested in this case, which is that there are extraordinary and striking parallels between this Fed-infiltrated fake kidnapping operation in Michigan and the January 6th so-called insurrection. So even though most people talk about the kidnapping plot in terms of kidnapping, it actually also involved a plot to storm the Michigan State Capitol. Interesting parallel with January 6th. Many of the so-called plotters were involved with a militia group called the Three Percenters, one of the three main militia groups imputed to the most insurrection-y type activity on January 6th. And as a cherry on top, which is a remarkable connection that Revolver.News reported months and months and months ago, the head of the Detroit FBI field office, who oversaw this joke, embarrassment, sham of an entrapment operation, just days after these so-called plotters were arrested, FBI Director Christopher Wray promoted D'Antuono to the DC FBI field office, where he went on to oversee the January 6th investigations. So the reason that this Michigan case was originally interesting and relevant to me is I'm not from Michigan or anything, and otherwise wouldn't have been extremely relevant. But the parallels with January 6th, suggesting contextually that January 6th could also have been a similar type of government setup in order to further a political agenda. That's, I think, the most relevant thing about this case, that extends far beyond the state borders.
It was just a week ago where in the studio for the Soul of Detroit, we welcomed in Valeria Iskova, who is a Ukraine refugee who has settled in Tecumseh, Michigan. And she just so matter-of-factly tells her story. And what an amazing story it was about her escape from Ukraine as the war with Russia that they launched just rages on over there. So here is Valeria Isakova from June 28th on the Soul of Detroit.
Valeria lived in a part of the Ukraine that has been under fire, and there really wasn't much choice except to go. But I understand your father's still there because men have to stay and fight. I mean, this is the sort of thing that people in America just don't have much experience with, and we see it from afar, and it all seems surreal to us. But to you, you've lived this. I mean, can you tell us a little bit what your last year has been like?
Oh, I think it has been even more. Like in 2014, we also had to move because of Vladimir Putin, but back then they didn't say he did that. Like we were living originally on the eastern side of Ukraine, which is like Luhansk area, the closest city to Russia. And we had to move and start from scratch again. And no, like support was given even inside the country because it was such a mess. And again, now, yes, my dad dad and my grandpa, they are staying in Ukraine right now, and men cannot leave. And even right now, before in Ukraine, women were not accepted into army because we were only men go to army. But right now, women can go. And for us, it's a big change also as well. They are still in Ukraine because men cannot leave. Even if you don't fight, you just have to stay there. And there was actually recently, I'm not sure if you have heard, people of Ukraine, they filed asking Zelensky to let men out because there is no place to work, nothing. They can't earn money, but everything costs money anyway.
What is your father doing though? What is his day-to-day like?
Good question. I mean, we check with them every day, and he's trying to work. He's real estate agent. He's trying to find people apartments. It's more about rent. So refugees from more eastern cities, they come to the safer cities, and he's trying to help that way. But daily, it's just they go for a walk with my grandpa sometime. Just it's the same every day. They cook now. It's because you have to stay inside of the apartment, and I'm trying to motivate him to learn something, because everything can be you can get access to everything remote, but it's just people are so dismotivated. They just feel like they're never going to get out of there because same day every day.
Is that because it's just dragging on?
Yeah, it's dragging on. They are living in a more safe, in a safer city. So for them, it's dragging on. They're just closed up there. More people from different cities come, and more cities get destroyed. People are unhappy. They don't get enough money. There's enough food, but it's not enough in 2022. Just food.
So 2014, you were telling us before you were in the Donbass region.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people know that have been following. And you moved to Kyiv?
We moved to Dnipro. It's another eastern city.
I wasn't even going to try to pronounce that word.
Yeah. So, and then I went for my exchange year. Then I went to college in Kyiv.
So you were back in Kyiv. And when did you have to leave? Because there was a big buildup. Back in November, December, there was this buildup, and there were a lot of people saying he's not going to invade. He's not going to invade. What were your feelings when that? She just rolled her eyes. So obviously you thought he was going to. How did you prepare, and what did you do?
We didn't prepare. Most of my friends, my company friends, my workplace friends, my family, we were it's not gonna happen. You said in November, December, I had my birthday in December, New Year in December. We didn't think about that. No. People were talking, we could talk, but nobody was actually preparing.
So how fast did that accelerate? And did you just, what could you grab? To take with you, if anything?
I remember on the 23rd of February, a journalist from CBS News, actually, she was in Ukraine. We could see a huge concentration of reporters coming on that day. And she came up to me and she goes do you have a plan? Do you have an emergency suitcase? People started packing emergency suitcases, but it started all rising 3 weeks before. Some people would leave with their man and go somewhere to Europe, just to wait it out in case something happens, so their man could leave. So some people would just go to Europe for a few months just to watch what's gonna happen. And some people would we expected it to happen on the weekend before. So a lot of people left Ukraine, flew out to Europe, waited, came back.
When did you leave?
We left on 28th, 29th of February after it started because we didn't believe it's going to happen. Yeah. We woke up and we didn't have an emergency suitcase packed. But the day before, you could feel the tension. It's something bad is going to happen, but you don't know what exactly. And everyone around you is talking about it. And I had a friend and he goes, yeah, I'm going to France in a week, because I think it's going to happen. And, apparently he's still in Ukraine because we woke up and next morning it all happened.
So how did you find out? I mean, did you hear things? Did you see things? Did you get a phone call? Was it in the news?
I mean, for me, it was I couldn't sleep a long time, and then I woke up at 8. Like some people were expecting it. Like some people because did you know Putin actually announced it on his site on his news? Like he came up during the night. Like during the night, he came out and spoke to his like country that they're going to free Ukraine from like whoever is like
from the Nazis.
Yeah,
right?
from the Nazis. Yeah.
So when you had to leave, what was it like? Did somebody say, you've got an hour? Did you go to the train? Did you go to the airport? Did you drive to the border?
Oh, that was bad. Like when war happens, nobody knows what to do. Nobody was actually expecting it. So when we woke up, we knew we had to leave, but we don't have a car. Like in our family, we don't drive. And that's something that got us screwed. But a lot of people were stuck in traffic. So the only thing we knew, we had to look for train tickets. And for bus tickets, they were all sold out for weeks. Like I called the morning, they were sold out, and you couldn't actually call because the line was too busy. So we didn't have a ticket. We just went to the train station just to see what it's like. We got a backpack, and we had one small suitcase, and each of us got a backpack. And we went to see to the train station what's like. Maybe we could get a ticket or something like this. And it's actually really risky. People still don't know if they can go to the train if it arrives during this hour when you cannot go out on the street. You know, like there's like curfew. Yeah, people still don't know if they can still go to the train or no. Like, so we arrived and we saw there were evacuating trains. But it's scary. Like the whole platform is full of people. Like you come out and it's already full. Everyone is leaving. Men were trying to get on the train because they wanted to go with their families, at least to the western, Ukraine, to be safe. And so we took the train, it was packed. People were sitting on the floor, and winter in Ukraine is like super cold. Like, I don't know, like very cold, like colder than in Michigan. And people were sitting on the floor, not enough seats, but it's okay. Like people are getting evacuated. But the worst is when the train arrived and people rushed to the train. So some fell in between. It's just like terrible that nobody knows what to do and everyone is scared. They lose their mind. Like,
yeah.
Animal instinct.
Did you end up getting a train out?
Yeah, we got into the train. We backed off and then I saw there was one, the first train was fine. Like you could get in there because there was a policeman who was stopping people. He was literally, the man was pushing away people so kids could come through. So, and we came through after the kids and just sat there. And that's how we made it to Western Ukraine. That's the only way was to go to Poland from Western Ukraine. And from Western Ukraine, we spent a few hours there and we didn't know where to go. So I have a friend, he got us into a car, drove us to the border, but then the driver dropped us and he was he didn't want to, because it was a huge line that was not moving, a line full of cars. It was not moving. Kids were crying and he's like, I didn't sign up for it. My family is still back there. So get out. And it was 8 kids and adults, moms, not even men. And it was cold. And he was like, get out. It's 30 kilometers before the border. We would have to walk. And then the policeman told us there's a train.
Cold.
It's cold and it's getting darker. And it's just terrible. We were devastated. And I could walk. But there were kids. How will they walk? And moms, they're all different age. Yeah, so obviously walking was not an option because by the time we would get there, it would get dark and we would still have to sleep on the street, in the woods, because it was basically just a road in the forest. So we got on the train, a different one that was supposed to bring us closer to the border, and we got on it as millions of other people, and we also didn't know where to get out. And the train, the train driver, he also didn't know. He didn't open the door to talk to us because he was so afraid because, moms get angry and stuff.
Sure.
So everyone is
desperate.
They're desperate, yeah. So they were knocking at that door and he didn't open. And he didn't give us a straight answer where to get out because they were trying, like, there was an evacuating train, which we found just by some kind of, I don't know, luck. Like, because we had to get out of that train, we got out on a random train station, like really small, in the middle of the field, no people, like, I mean, there were people like us, but no one to tell us what to do. And then they were like, oh, there is another train, but it was already full, also evacuating train. And then we just, during the middle of the night, somebody said, oh, there is another train coming. So we just practically ran everywhere. You're like a puppy who's blind. You just go everywhere where they tell you to go. And since they're trying to keep it really like safe and private, like that nobody knows that the train is coming, you can't really use your phone. You can't really see it, so we had to go through the railway tracks, and we got into Poland. Poland was super welcoming. Like, still, a lot of Ukrainians are so thankful for Poland opening up the borders and really welcoming the people. So we got to Poland, but then we saw Poland is like overcrowded with Ukrainians. Like, there is nowhere we could stay.
1 million people.
Yeah, millions. Like, so we went to Germany because my friend was able to help us with an apartment to live for free just for some time because US didn't open the borders.
And finally, on the best of ML Solo Detroit, it's Sam Riddle. Sam is a guy, he's involved in Detroit politics. He was really tight with Monica Conyers. They were the power couple a while back, and it kind of blew up. They both went to prison, and Sam went to prison for a role in the bribery scheme, and now he is out. He is free and clear to run for Congress, a federal position. Sam, I appreciate his candor, and boy, did he come in all guns a-blazing way back in May. Here's Sam Riddle on the best of ML Solo Detroit.
And Sam, you're running for Congress.
Well, yeah. This is what's fascinating about Sam is I think other things pop in people's mind when they think of you, you know.
Well, that's what she said when the bed broke.
I mean, some of the...
Okay.
So that's how we're going to roll. By the way, are you the first hippie to ever run for Congress?
I don't know. I never knew I was a hippie. But, you know, hey, what the hell? You live long enough, you could be almost anything.
True.
The issue is, what do you survive?
You can be hip and not be a hippie.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
You guys are hip. You're not hippies.
No, I'm not hip.
No, you
just broke one.
Yeah, Sean is rose hips. That's what they have on that multivitamin he takes every day.
I'm not hip.
That's how he gets that amber
cool.
glow.
You're cool, Sean.
Is that because I accepted our introduction without pushback?
Well, you can push back. It's all good.
No, I didn't back then.
Well, it's okay. You push back more than you knew.
Do you guys
You
know?
had looks of utter disgust.
What is the story
That's a
there?
pushback.
Do you know how we met?
I do not.
He was a councilman, right? Clyde Cleveland was in a bit of trouble. I want to say domestic.
Yeah. There was some trouble between he and his wife. Yeah.
He got in a little bit of trouble. So it was early 2000s, and I was sent out to his house. I want to say it was at the University of Detroit, near in northwest.
It was off of
Detroit.
Palmer Park, actually, over in that area off 7
Okay,
Mile.
so it's a 2-story. I walk up, I knock on the door, nobody answers, and I back up, and there's a window open up top. It slings open, and I hear this voice, a man trying to sound like a woman speaking Spanish who spoke English. And it's Sam Riddle acting like the housekeeper saying, nobody's home. Well, that's how I met Sam Riddle. Nobody's home.
That's partially true. The reality is that it was a woman you heard, not me.
No, but the story's much better when it's you.
Well, yeah, I know.
No, he's coaching the housekeeper, telling me to say nobody's home.
Exactly. Because
see, that's what happens when you have a consigliere like Sam. He can handle
puppeteer.
every situation.
Yeah. That's how we met.
Yeah. Okay. I remember.
Yeah.
And Sean just went away. See, I would have climbed the gutters. I'd have been up the.
I don't remember what I did. I probably yelled up and.
Well, yeah, you did. But the fact that you were snooping around was significant.
Snooping. I knocked on the front door.
Well, it's off 7 Mile, man.
This was Sean when he was on a news team.
Yeah.
And we've both spent a lot of time with Sam. I drove, if you read the Free Press, Sunday's edition, you can see a link on our website. I drove to Saginaw with Sam, and we were on our way back from Saginaw back in 2009 when he got a phone call from Monica Conyers, who had just pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit bribery. She must have been outside the federal courthouse because she had her cell phone, but she calls Sam and says, how do you think this is going to affect my political career? And Sam says, it's pretty much going to end it. And she's like, really? And now Sam is running for office. Monica was running for office. She got booted from the ballot. She was running for Wayne County Executive. Hasn't really talked to us very much, or at all for that matter, about why she's running. While she talked to Sam on the phone for quite a while that day, when I called her last week, she just hung up. But Sam is running for Congress on a pretty sweeping platform to both serve Democrats and stick it to Democrats.
Yeah.
National Democrats.
Well, yeah, because, in, when was it? Hell, the first National Black Political Convention, I believe it was 1972. We had that convention in Gary, Indiana. One of the Flint, Michigan, Genesee County commissioners, his first cousin was a guy named Gary Hatcher, one of the first black mayors in America. And he was convening the first National Black Political Convention. And the reason it was being convened was because the National Democratic Party back then, 50 years ago or whenever, was doing the same thing it's doing now, just taking us for granted. Votes in the hip pocket. Treat them any old way. Hell, in Michigan, you can lose a race to Janice Winfrey, and they'll elevate you to lieutenant governor. Just lose, Garland Gilchrist.
Now, hadn't Fannie Lou Hamer had a national black political convention before 72?
She had a party, the Freedom Now Party, I believe it was. And again, confrontations. I think that was Chicago. That was the year that
I know it's in the 60s.
Daley was there, and it was like a major league confrontation with the police and everything. But the point is that the Democratic Party has a history of betraying its most loyal constituents, and those are black voters, us. And quite frankly, black America deserves better. But hell, you got these yahoos in the Republican Party that choose a guy like Donald Trump, known white nationalist, known white supremacist, known draft dodger, and what the hell?
But to your point, what did he always say?
Private bone spurs, right?
He always said, what have you got to lose? Because he said the same thing you said.
No, and he had a valid point.
Yep.
And he picked up 5,000 more votes in Detroit in 2020 than 2016. That had to be some black
And let me say this. I take great pride in one of the women that I work with, a state representative. She was the one, Trump had her personal phone number. She had Trump personal phone number. They would speak, and it's State Representative Karen Whitsett. Her calls and conversations with this Republican white nationalist freed Kwame Kilpatrick. You've heard of him, haven't you, NML?
I am, but you're bragging about getting Kwame Kilpatrick out of prison?
All I'm saying is what happened. Who's bragging? Kwame Kilpatrick is the ultimate, ingrate, narcissist. What can I say about Kwame?
Should he be out?
Yes, he should be out. 28 years is too many years. You do the crime, you're going to do some damn time. But 28 years was too many damn years. Hell, you could have walked up, shot someone in the face, killed him, and got less time. In Detroit.
Let me ask you a question, Sam. Mike's got this new column at the Free Press. He writes about you, and I want to say he slips Kwame Kilpatrick in that column at least twice. Were you offended?
You think I'm not offended because we are the sum total. Whether it's ML, Mike. I think you're getting real familiar too, Sean.
Yes,
I think he's a little familiar, ML. But
By
the point is,
you're the one falling for the propaganda by calling him ML.
Every other column, Sean slips something interesting in.
Yeah, well, he works at it.
Yeah.
He works at it. But the point is that we are the sum total of our experiences. ML's experience, his Pulitzer, was founded on Kwame Kilpatrick. Even though the lawyer that provided the material was trying to drive a settlement for Gary Brown. What can I say?
Well, when you're talking about the 2000s, as I like to think of them as the awful aughts, that was the Kwame Kilpatrick decade. And Sean, people who maybe be a little more sophisticated and literate realized that we were writing about something that was going on in 2009 with public corruption. How do you write about public corruption in 2009 and not mention Kwame Kilpatrick? I would like to have seen a talented wordsmith like yourself do that, Sean.
I'm not talented at all. I just thought it was...
It's like writing about the Detroit Tigers and not mentioning baseball.
What do you mean getting too familiar? With you?
No, with Mike, ML.
Yeah, he's been told many times that the proper way to address
Mike and I
me.
have been in a hot tub together. What do you mean?
Mr. Elric and your lordship. Those are the two ways Sean is supposed to address
You want to see a lot of pasty? Yeah, that's not a sight at all.
And as people who are watching us on YouTube channel ML Elric, please subscribe. I like this layout better because Sean cannot make direct eye contact with me. This is much better.
without hurting my neck.
Yeah.
By turning.
All those gobblers come swinging around. It's like Charles Kuralt on a trampoline. I love it.
Oh, my God. He's been calling me turkey neck for 20 years. We've been in a hot tub together. I do have to say he has a six-pack underneath.
Wait. You've been in a hot tub with Sam?
No, with you.
No, not with me. Not with me.
By the way,
was I roofied? Because I do not remember that.
Okie dokie. That's all we got for today. ML will be back next Tuesday. In the meantime, Cyrus, get us out of here.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
I know I didn't have too much right to be mad at one sergeant. But today it didn't matter. Because I was mad at the whole world, and in particular what it had done to her used to be nice kid named Sean Windsor. And when I stood in Warden Hall's far from drab prison office and waited while a dapper man in gleaming Hickok cufflinks and soft gray gabardine got through talking to his wife in syrup-sticky tones, I began to get mad at him, too.